Hello and welcome in Long Ball number 1 here for Monday, June 2nd, the first episode in June for us here. Jason, it was a bit of an MLS versus Liga MX weekend. Saturday saw LAFC beat Club America in the Club World Cup play-in, play-off matchup, which was just a wild scene in general, catching up on the highlights. And then last night, Vancouver didn't do so well, lost 5-0 to Cruz Azul.
So the difference between those two games, the biggest difference, most important difference, Rob, is that I stayed up and watched every second of LAFC Big Club America. I turned off the CONCACAF Champions Cup final after the first goal because I saw the way Cruz Azul scored that goal, and I said, "Oh, Vancouver's not up for this. This is not going to go well. This is yet another MLS sacrifice in the CONCACAF Champions Cup League final." And here we are. And you know, no one is shocked, no one is surprised, but we are all disappointed if you are an MLS supporter or you just want to see more competition in this CONCACAF world that we live in.
Yeah, that one was over pretty quick. I tuned in to the Club World Cup final, put it on, and then kind of went around my business, the laundry and the dishes for the end of the night. Tuned back in. I had it in the background and looked back, and it was like 3-4-0 just a few moments later, and knew I shouldn't sacrifice any sleep for this one. Unfortunate for Vancouver on such a hot streak, but it seemed like anything that could have gone wrong did. And then they were absent some key players here. I think when I was hearing the rundown of the lineups, hearing Berhalter, and there was another midfielder out, but that was a big part, right?
Yeah, they had issues, that maybe made it tougher for them away from home in Mexico City with the altitude, with everything that comes with playing away in Mexico. It just really is a difficult situation when you go into those environments. However, they made it worse as we look at recent results. This is since 20. I can actually make it so you can see from 2018 to the current day, every CONCACAF Champions League / Cup final. Some of those were two-legged before they went to the one-off the last couple of seasons. And I don't think that benefits Major League Soccer. I mean, you've got to come out as the higher seed in the group phase, in the knockout phase, if you want to win this thing, if you're MLS. Because again, let's go back to Saturday night in front of what was, I don't know if it was 50-50. There were a lot of LAFC fans, the 32-52 represented, but that other side of the stadium was entirely Club America fans. It was, and they were all given the same T-shirt. So it was a unified block of gold in one end of the stadium in Los Angeles. But LAFC not overawed by the biggest club on the continent in Club America. Not finding themselves. They gave up a penalty kick that Brian Rodriguez, former LAFC player, scored, and then were able to come back, find the 2 goals necessary to get themselves that opportunity to play in the Club World Cup, right? And maybe you want to dismiss that, but those 2 teams cared about that competition. And in their own building, even in front of what was somewhat of a hostile crowd, LAFC held their own. Away from home in Mexico City, at altitude, in that stadium against Cruz Azul, Vancouver wilted. They collapsed. They didn't handle the moment. You can't blame food poisoning the way that Columbus apparently was able to say food poisoning when they lost to Pachuca last year, because Vancouver made it a point to bring their own chef and do all those things. But Vancouver hurt themselves. Not only did Sebastian Berhalter's yellow card suspension really hurt them in midfield, but they chose themselves to play on Wednesday night in Major League Soccer. And they made this big thing about, we play better on short rest. We look at our results, we look at our data, and we say that we think we play better when we put ourselves in that position to have to go from game to training to game. It's the rhythm of the thing. Clearly not. And it may look, again, altitude, but you should know you're walking into that low oxygen environment, Rob. You should know that this is not, you cannot be like, well, yeah, if we play more, somehow we're going to be more ready. We're going to have more energy. Not in Mexico City, you're not. So Vancouver embarrassed, which I think is incredibly disappointing for MLS fans, especially considering Vancouver not only made this run in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but looks like the best team in Major League Soccer so far.
Yeah, not only that, but to all your points valid, but also they got very unlucky as well. I think it was the 4th or the 5th goal. The Vancouver midfielder tried to turn and just fell over and then Cruz Azul went down the other end and scored. Like, that has nothing to do with midweek rest or preparation or.
Wait, how do you know that? How do you know that? You say it's bad luck. I mean, look, they were clearly not up for it in general. The very first goal that set the tone for the day was a poor giveaway in midfield because they're trying to link up, they're trying to play through, but they're not playing sharp, right? And this is what happens to MLS teams when they go to Mexico, Rob. It is a consistent theme. Look at this. I mean, again, Toronto loses in 2 legs in 2018. We have an all-Mexican final in 2019. LAFC loses in that bubble game in Orlando. I don't know if you want to throw that out, but they lose to Tigres in 2020. Monterrey America in a final together. Obviously, Seattle beats Pumas over 2 legs. Of course, they didn't have to play a Mexican team before they got to that, which Vancouver did, so give them credit. We've got León beating LAFC over 2 legs. We obviously have Columbus collapsing against Pachuca last year when we thought they might be the great MLS hope. It is a theme that when teams go to Mexico, and this is why we did think that maybe Vancouver had the recipe. They had the formula to figure this out because they had gone down there and gotten results. Not victories, but gotten results. They didn't even show up last night. Didn't even show up.
And I was just like, one final note on the first game of the weekend, the successful MLS outing against Club America. I had to double check where that was played. I thought that was in Los Angeles, but with the way the crowd looked and the sounded, it was an incredibly partisan environment. And to your point, it's pretty incredible that they were able to, LAFC were able to overcome a deficit in that environment in their own home with that much on the line, showing some superior mettle in that high stakes game, and definitely some juice in there. Both teams cared